gentlemen, thanks for coming. We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. Today's going to be a little more relaxed, and it's going to be a little more interactive, so I'm kind of glad that there's kind of a smaller number today. We're going to do a review of some statistics for the year because we haven't really gone over any of that yet. We're going to have a few words from the chief, and then we're going to go through and do an interaction. Basically going to go through and speak with each of you and try to see it's a question and answer session. So questions that you have, you can bring to us and bring to me, and we'll go through and get them answered. And I'm going to have some questions for you guys, so I look forward to it.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give you guys, me and Josh talked about a little about this. Instead of like a formal presentation, just kind of go over some of the things that we've been doing as far as like some of the criminal activity and some of the stuff that the police department's been doing just in my short 3 months here. And so I thought it was kind of important to give you an idea of where crime stats are. Now, take into consideration COVID, of course, that kind of, who knows what that really means to our crime stats and stuff, but and then there's a few specific incidents I want to talk about and some of the work that the officers have done, which and then kind of the philosophy that I have in going after criminal activity. So, and this here's kind of a report that I'll give council, so council members will get this again on Thursday, but so just in comparison, in the last 3 months, in May, we went to we had 881 incidents. An incident could be anything from a barking dog call to a 911 call to ambulance assist to whatever. But we also had 43 arrests. Compared to 2019, this is for the month of May, they responded to 1,290 calls for service and had 67 arrests. So arrests are down significantly in the month of May. June, we went to 999 incidents and 36 arrests compared to 2019, where that was almost the same, 1,081 incidents and 58 arrests. And then for the month of July, we had 961 incidents and then 43 arrests, and in 19 it was 1,397 and 70 arrests, but we didn't have Stampede this year. So there's always a significant number of arrests that come out of Stampede or charges and stuff like that. But overall, our calls continue to be down about 25% compared to last year. And again, really the only thing that I can see that's, well, there's I'm not going to blame it all on COVID. I will tell you, under even Chief Rosencrantz, there was kind of a shift in philosophy on criminal activity being a lot more aggressive. And what I mean by aggressive, that term always throws people in a tizzy when you say the police are being aggressive. I mean aggressive in going after criminal activity. So if we take a report, we've been very aggressive, and we're going to continue that to go after those criminals who are actually committing crimes within the city limits. And that just leads me right in to like 2 or 3 really significant incidences. I think it was right after Neighborhood Watch last month. That very night, I got home, watched a little sports, ate dinner, went to bed, and like at midnight, we had the burglary of the gun store out here. That very night, and we had done, had the conversation here. But that was very significant. We went after that very aggressively. After whoever committed it, Josh, David Pino, and Sergeant Martinez, less than 24 hours, we had we had some good evidence that helped us. I was able to, the suspect was kind enough to leave his cell phone at the gun store. But partnerships, right? We found that by 3 o'clock that afternoon. So that happened at 006. So 6 minutes after midnight, that burglary happened. At 007, Officer David Pino was on scene, so less than a minute. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, I had the phone in the hand of ATF, and by 7:30 that night, ATF had read the phone and told us who owned the phone. By midnight, less than 24 hours, we had a warrant for the suspect. So it was pretty significant work, and these guys put in a ton of time, a lot of hours, and the good thing is we've recovered a lot of the stolen property. Again, just being very aggressive in going after and interviews, and the suspect has since been arrested and is in custody, awaiting all the legal proceedings. So I was very proud of the work that those guys did in being very aggressive in going after that. In the same thing, we had just like all of a sudden we came across one stolen car, which led to 2 more stolen cars. And again, that was the officers being very aggressive, not just stopping, going, okay, we got our stolen car. They just kept going after it, following up. And within just a matter of a few hours, they had 2 more stolen cars recovered, and several people in custody. And we're going to continue to do that. This past week, we had a pursuit with State Patrol that originally had the pursuit. They didn't pursue it in the city. We picked it up right in the middle of coffee with a cop. We bailed from coffee with a cop, left them hanging, right? And we went after it. And same thing, we found the car abandoned. Sergeant Ortega was like, we're not going to just stop here. We're going to go after it. And we stayed on it for an hour and a half and finally identified the suspects and got both of them in custody. So that's just kind of the philosophy with it. We're not going to just stop and take a report and be like, okay, well, we took a crime report. No, we're going to push hard to follow up and to go after these criminals, as we should.
Yeah, I got a question, and it always comes up. I sorry I'm interrupting, but I always think about this with the arrests, and you guys doing a phenomenal job with locating these people. Are they predominantly out of the area or local? Is there any trend there at all?
So great question, Counselor. So the pursuit that we had, they were from out of area, but they had ties. And I would say the majority of it, it's probably 50-50 whether they're out of area or not. But if they're not necessarily from here, like the 2 on the pursuit, they were from Pueblo, but they had ties here. They were weak ties. It was like the lady's house they were in was like a second cousin removed through marriage, one of those type of things. But they still had a connection here, right? And then the burglar, he was from here. He had ties to here. But he also had burglary warrants out of Pueblo. He had burglary warrants out of Chaffee County. And then, of course, now our charges on it. So he was a prolific burglar.
That was the gun.
What's that? The gun store one, right? And in that gun store one, what was interesting is we had a burglary at the golf course a couple of days before. Well, the golf cart that was stolen from there was used to drive from Monte Vista into Alamosa County and steal a pickup, and then the stolen pickup was used to ran through the gun store. So. But I mean, it all just kind of ties together.
Something to add on to that. After he bailed on the pickup and managed to get into Alamosa, he stole another truck in Alamosa and then went out into the middle of nowhere to try to hide, because he stole a truck with, I believe, a camper, and he set the camper up on his ex-wife's property out in the middle of nowhere and was hiding out there for...
Yeah, so we're hoping to get a good resolution on this case eventually, but and so just those type of activities. But again, we're going to go be very aggressive in, we're going to do it legally, ethically, and we're going to do it right. But we're going to go after, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to follow all the rules, the constitutional rights, Fourth Amendment rights for search and stuff. For example, the the pursuit, we didn't have necessarily enough to get into the house where we knew they were, and we weren't going to force the issue, but we were persistent, and weren't going away until we were following all kinds of leads to see if we could find somebody to get us enough so we could actually get a search warrant, because initially we just didn't have enough to go into the house. So it took us an hour and a half when we were following leads and gathering our information so we could get a search warrant, and lo and behold, they come out because they understood that we weren't going to just walk away and be done with recovering a stolen car. Yeah, we're going to continue that type of philosophy of being aggressive, going after the criminals that commit crimes, as we should be. And we've got some officers that do some really good investigations. Josh, for example, is a great investigator, so it makes it right. I mean, we were going to work on some warrants that we've never tried before through the feds, to try and get some warrants like Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So it was good work. Just kind of an officer's update as far as personnel. We just hired today a new officer, a girl out of Swatch County. She's a deputy in Swatch County, so we hired her, and she's going to start here pretty soon, and that's going to put us right about full staff. So other than that,
Is that our first female officer?
So in a long time. Yeah. In a very long time. I was talking with Irene, who's been part of the PD for 35 years, and I don't think in my 25 years here with either State Patrol or here that we've had a female officer. So we had an opening, put it out, and we had 2 applicants, and lo and behold, we couldn't miss because both of them were female. So kind of excited about that. And I had said that when I interviewed, that our department needs to reflect the community that we serve. So we're excited to get a female officer. Yeah. And she'll be a great asset to the police department for a whole lot of reasons. So we've just kind of a cool little tool we got. In fact, I meant to bring one, but we'll bring it at one of these and fingerprint some of you to see who has warrants and stuff. But CBI, when I was a State Patrol, we had these cool little handheld fingerprint devices that you can actually use in the field. And you can literally, I could walk into a room, fingerprint everybody in here, go back to my car, and then it'll run everybody to see if they have warrants and who they actually are. We've never had those before. They're kind of pricey, like $1,500 a piece. I had some connections at the state, having worked there, and was able to acquire 7 of them for no cost to the city, as well as the access to it is like $400 per line, because you have to get into the state system to do it, and they lo and behold gave us that for free too. So didn't cost us things. So we have these. We're the only other agency in the valley to have them. State Patrol, of course, has had them for quite a few years, but we got 7 of them. So I'm most proud of the fact that it didn't cost us a single dime to do this. But what's cool about it is when I was with State Patrol, the very first time I used it, Elmos PD had a guy that it was a homeless guy that wouldn't identify himself, and it was just right down from the State Patrol office. I went there and fingerprinted him, and he had a homicide warrant out of Ohio. I mean, it's that quick. Josh has seen it. 2 fingers, boom, if they're in the system. And it just pops up pictures and warrants and all this kind of stuff. So we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. Yeah, again, I don't even care about the handheld devices. The fact that it costs us no money is the best part about it, right? So other than that, I think that's really about all I've got for an update, but I'm sure willing to answer any questions that anybody has.
That sounds like TV stuff, sci-fi.
NCIS.
Well, it really is.
Print and send it in.
It's really cool. I remember when I started in law enforcement, they used to talk about, oh yeah, someday you'll be able to like right out in the field fingerprint people and do this, and lo and behold, we literally are doing that now. And it's I'll bring it to council too and demonstrate it. It's kind of a cool, very, very cool device, and we've got them in all of our cars.
Well, once they chip everybody.
That's true. Very true. Big Brother at its finest, so.
Don't get me started.
What I like about it
I'm
is
not
the
afraid.
fact
12
that it-
arrests, no convictions.
Right. What I like about it is it helps us in the field. You know, because sometimes you get people that lie. I mean, lo and behold, we get people that lie to us. But it just helps us to make sure that we know who we're dealing with, and that we can also confirm identities. You know, and it's just it's an absolute phenomenal tool. You hear the troopers on the radio. Agencies all over the valley are like, "Hey, you got a trooper close? They can fingerprint them." Us included, we used to call and say, "Hey, can you have a trooper come and fingerprint them?" That way you don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of taking them in, taking them to the jail, because they're the only place to fingerprint them is at the jail. So this here just speeds things up tremendously for us. So, yes, sir, Kim.
Out of those arrest records that from May till now, I'm sure you do, how many of those, because one of my things that I'm concerned about, how many of those are drug arrests?
So, glad you asked that. We brought those. So this here is just for the month of July, and at any time you guys want all the, so state patrol dispatches for us, so each month they give us it's by incident type. We just ask them to run an incident type report for us. And
Very bad.
for the month of July, there were 10 drug incidents that we responded to. A lot of stuff we do, we end up helping other agencies. I mean, anything from phone messages, follow-up investigations, to traffic stops. Like the month of, there was 121 traffic stops in the month of July. And you know, traffic stop doesn't necessarily always mean that we're going to write a ticket, but we're still making contacts with people and stuff like that. So, vandalism 5. What else? There's just pretty much anything that you need is on here. We got this new thing, that new Senate Bill 217 that we've been dealing with, that the Denver legislators graciously passed on to us. We've had to start tracking all that, and that's been pretty significant, the way we have to track data and stuff. So I think when I pulled the stats earlier, since we started this, like 243 of those have been this Senate Bill 217 tracking. So other than an event like this, basically everybody we come in contact, we have to collect demographics on. They don't want us doing any kind of profiling, right? But what they want us to guess your gender, they want us to guess your ethnicity, they want us to guess they want us just to guess on all this stuff. Yet in the bill it says you will not racial profile, but they want us to collect all this data, so it really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
So the gentleman that offered my yard worker a joint, is that a drug case? Is that a...
Correct. That would be a drug case, along with a whole bunch of other things.
Is it a drug case just because the young man was a minor?
No, it's because it was drugs. That was the primary, is that he was offering drugs. So, I mean, you'll have contributing to delinquency of a minor, attempted sales, but it's still drug. That's the primary. Because when we classify crimes, we have several different classifications we'll put in there. Like a domestic violence, for example, will usually be either assault or harassment, but it's classified. That's the primary charge, but it's classified as domestic violence.
No, I hired a young man to pull weeds, and he's like 15, 16, and I had a guest staying in the hotel that the very day he was out there doing a great job, by the way, offered him a joint. And he called his parents and called these guys and scared him to death. So he's not weeding anymore.
Wow.
And this is a little outside of what you guys have any control over, but I'm hoping for inside information. What's going on now with the COVID and releasing prisoners and those kind of things? Because I mean, it's like this guy that you just mentioned.
So, great question. It just recently, it changed significantly where before we had to, obviously we're still screening them and stuff like this, but before we were only allowed to take certain things to, certain types of crimes to jail. Of course, domestic violence, warrants, and then like class 1, 2, 3 felonies. So like even that drug case, not necessarily take that. Well, we had a reclarification by the chief district judge, reclarified what it means, and everybody's going back to jail now. So other than like our municipal warrants, we'll sometimes release them on a recognizance bond, but pretty much the way it is now in Rio Grande, at least, is the jail is accepting anybody we arrest. We can book them back into the Rio Grande County Jail, and then they do their own screening process and all that. Now I know some jails across the state are still significantly screening, and they're only taking certain types of crimes and stuff like that. But
well, even at the federal level, I mean, the prisons, they let so many people out, and it took. I worked on this case. It took 14, 15 months to get this guy before a judge and actually get sentenced. And then he got out after 6 months. And that's after molesting his 3 granddaughters. He got a total of 6 months. And they let him out because of the COVID stuff. So, I mean, he's on parole. I mean, it's pretty strict parole, but it just seems so out of balance.
yeah, I think we'll be. I think there's going to be a little bit of a lag time in, what COVID is releasing all these. A lot of the criminals. I think you're going to see a significant lag time in what that truly means. We might be really talking about this next year at this time, right? That might be when it really hits us, or who knows? You hope that prison does its reform, but we also know the history of that, right? It hasn't been very successful over the years.
At least Rio Grande is now accepting.
They're taking everybody, and what happens from there? Well, at least the initial booking, yes.
If they don't, it undermines what you guys are doing. When you talk about being aggressive and actually catching these guys.
I will tell you, it's frustrating. To put it in the nicest terms I possibly can, it's very frustrating that you do all this work and then it's whatever. But it's not for me to. We're the beginning of the criminal justice system, so we do our part and do it well, and do our part, and the rest is up to the rest of them to what happens with it. So, but yeah, you definitely get frustrated at times when you see the same thing over and over and over, and like Groundhog's Day, right? Just keep repeating it over and over and over, and nothing changes. So. What else? What other kind of questions you guys got for us? Crime stats, all that good stuff. Again, we just kind of want to give you guys an update on where we were, what we're doing. Still doing Coffee with a Cop, obviously this. Trying to do a lot of foot patrols down in the evenings and mornings down in the business areas and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, I guess we do have a new SRO who actually today was his first day in the school. Dylan Golden is our new school resource officer, and Dylan's probably the epitome of community policing. He is the one guy that everybody in the community knows, and everybody loves Dylan. I'm going to try and outdo him so that I get to know more people than Dylan. I don't know if that's possible, but everybody knows Dylan and everybody loves Dylan. And he just genuinely can connect with anybody and everybody. So he's just a phenomenal officer, as are all the officers. So really, that's about it. We just kind of wanted to give you guys an update and,
Adam, this is gonna be podcast, right?
Video, YouTube, just video.
MVPD TV.
So they have their own video channel.
Nice.
They do.
There's a lot of comments that have been made here tonight, and I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on a lot of them, because my opinion is very strong, and,
very aware of that, Mayor.
but, the one thing I would like, if the community's watching this or will be watching it, don't be afraid to turn something in. It may be something real petty. You know, I had a neighbor lady, I talked to the chief, who almost got run over in an alley. There's some strange vehicles driving around, a couple black vehicles, black pickups, that take their time going through neighborhoods, turn them in. People walking, don't be afraid to turn it in. We had a really good build on this once. Let's continue to do it.
Yeah, you know, that's a great, great point. You know, when 9/11 happened in 2001, come out with the new see something, say something, and you know, through Homeland Security, and I got to tell you, that has been extremely successful, no matter how small you think it is. If you see something, don't be afraid to call and say something, because that's really where it starts. And I mean, they have solved some major and interrupted some major, you know, terrorist plots by something so simple as somebody going, that just doesn't seem right, and they turn it in and it turns into something major. And likewise, it's the same thing. See something, say something. We will always do our best to absolutely follow up on that. What the mayor was talking about, there was complaint of speeders through that alley. I literally sat there 2 days and saw one vehicle, so, but followed up with it. I mean, totally prepared and ready to, you know, take action if needed in that alley. And we'll continue to get the but just little things like that make all the difference in the world, because it takes everybody's eyes and everybody's ears to make a difference. So, great point, Mayor. Anything else?
At the last neighborhood watch meeting, a couple of neighbors on, well, I was one of them, and the neighbor across the street from us talked about the increased noise on First Avenue. Now, granted, it's a highway, so you expect noise. And I think we covered that, but there's been a lot of engine revving. A lot of, in fact, yesterday was almost all day long. I had started to kind of write down times to maybe think maybe that would help. And the times that I did write were between 6 and 7 in the morning. No, around 10 a.m. in the morning, and between 6 and 7 at night. So I don't know if there's any way to, I don't even know if there's any way to do that, but I'm not just talking highway noise, I'm talking the windows are rattling.
It's a black car.
Well, that's one of them. There's also a blue truck with, a white truck with a blue design on it.
A black and white truck?
No, I haven't seen the truck, but there's a black car that when he goes down my street, it's like,
Yesterday, it was bad. I was in the backyard at one point, so I only heard it. I didn't see it. I was in the backyard. But it was two vehicles, and it sounded like they were racing. And of course, it does no good to try to get around to the front yard because they're gone by the time I get there. So they're going to be gone by the time y'all get there.
The noise issue on First is something that I think we're definitely going to have to look at. You know, but we don't want to discourage traffic from there, right? I mean, that's we want.
Right.
We want tourists and stuff coming through, and I tried pulling out of one of the side streets today, and finally backed up and went the other way because there was so much traffic, which makes it difficult. But again, you don't want to discourage them from coming down here and stopping and that. So it's kind of the noise thing is definitely an issue.
Again, I know I live on a highway. I know I need to make those concessions, and that's fine. I don't mind highway noise. The on-purpose revving, racing, that's what bothers me. That make sense?
yeah, because I know there's 3 or 4 of them that do it, but
You're only a couple streets over from your block roads.
Moore Street's a big area where they go down.
I've been going through and trying to pay attention to that area as best as I can, and I just made some observations that might come into play. I was just briefly speaking with Chief about some of those, and I guess it's a CDOT thing that I would need to
This
speak
right
with them
through here, the
about.
speed limits are, because it's federal highway that runs through there, so CDOT's gonna pretty much set those, and it's 25 for business district. As soon as you get past, 285 and 15, then it goes to 30 because it's a residential district.
And then part of, okay, so there's a very narrow residential area where it goes between 25 and 30. And then right at the police station, the speed limit jumps up to 40. It's a 10 mile an hour increase, and then right after that, it's 50.
Well,
Part of-
it's interesting to say that because right there this morning, Sergeant Martinez got a car going 60 in that 30 zone this morning.
Right near where we are?
Yeah, just right there. He was running radar and working traffic there this morning and got a car at 60 in that 30 zone this morning.
Well, I've seen them pull off Davis. I know they're not speeding. They haven't had time to speed. They've had time to make a big noise, you know, they pull off Davis and just, I don't know if it's some sort of specialized exhaust system. I don't know enough about cars to know, but it's loud.
Well, there's an actual charge for altering your exhaust system. It's actually a mandatory summons to court for altered exhaust system.
We put a sign, noise ordinance enforced, or is that, we have to check the CDOT before we do something?
No, we put the signs up because you can do that within, but the speed limits in that, because it's a federal highway, I'm pretty sure is set by, like side streets, those are set by city council and that, but the main highway, I'm pretty sure is probably, because it's a federal highway and it's got federal funding and grants and all that, and can kind of control, because CDOT also does the snow plow on it.
Yeah, and that's right, because of when they changed the speed limit coming in from the east, and everybody went into panic mode because it was CDOT, it wasn't the city.
I was just wondering about the signs, though. That's not going to stop everything, but if people get, the people that are out there, like what we're talking about with, just sounds like locals, and if they start seeing, like Martha's talking about, some of the signage out, that doesn't solve everything, but at least if there's 3 or 4 of them.
Well, I gotta tell you,
On each
some of that's
side.
on us. Some of that's on us. The best thing we can do is catch 1 or 2 and write them tickets, and that word spreads like wildfire.
Yeah, that kind of.
There's noise ordinance signs on each highway coming in Monte Vista.
It's gotta be locals because Mayor Becker knows the car that goes by his house, I know the truck that goes by my house. I mean, we can go find them, but we can't catch them do it. And I understand this is not a criticism, because again, if I were to call you right then and you made me top priority, they're gone by the time you get there. So I'm not sure how to stop that. And if they see a police car there, of course they're not gonna do it.
Narrowing down that time frame would help us a lot, like with the complaint of the speeders through the alley. Time frames are always good because it just gives us a little more focus.
So, and everybody has a cell phone now. I mean, look at all the smartphones laying here. There's somebody that keeps running that stop sign on 2nd on Morris. You will have a picture of that.
Yeah, and those are things that we will absolutely, because if you're willing to sign a complaint, we'll absolutely follow up on that and issue a ticket. That's an easy one, a traffic complaint. We can easily do that.
Citizens arrest.
I would just say, please let us do it. Gather the information and let us do it.
So I had that happening on our street a long time ago. They were drag racing. And they couldn't catch them. And I had an old steel trash can that I carried out in the front yard. And I told them, I said, I'll get them stopped. You'll find them in the street. They caught them.
Well, I know they've had a rash of drag racing in Alamosa this summer, and talking with Chief Anderson, they actually put an op together and sent officers out, and they wrote a bunch of tickets in just a couple of nights for drag racers. Because there was a little group that was doing their drag racing, and they went after them pretty aggressively and got a bunch of them, so. All right, any other questions? Well, again, thank you all.
Thank you guys for what you do.
Yeah, no, we like these. I like coming to these meetings. Very good.
Thank you. Before we go through and wrap it up, I said that we were going to do something a little interactive, and I see that we have a number of members of City Council here. Something that we're trying to move forward with is more of what the citizens want from Neighborhood Watch. We've gone through and we've done presentations for a little over a year now. We've basically picked the material, but we're also curious as to the kind of material that you want to see. Because I'm sure at some point you're tired of seeing 3 presentations about drugs and marijuana presentations and all that. Some of the stuff is really cool. Some of the stuff like we saw last month is really dry. But I'd really be interested in knowing what each of you would like to see.
I'd like to hear a review of the castle laws or the lack thereof, and what's actually allowed if there's somebody breaking into your house or in your car in front of your house, and what you can get away with and where you can bury the bodies.
Okay, so
It's on TV, right? Pastor Bob talking about burying the bodies. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it varies state to state.
it does.
I've lived here 4 years, so I'm still trying to figure them out. You know, something to review.
Okay. So, I actually do have a presentation that we can revisit on that where I've talked
I want it
about-
fresh, Josh. I don't want a canned presentation. I want a fresh presentation. I'm kidding. I look forward to seeing it.
Okay, so I've got that one, Mr. Mayor.
I'm with him on that one. Because I have a really bad habit of, I've caught people breaking into houses, and I'm not gonna say it's a bad habit, but I have stood right out in the street and turned it in. Because I got asked, well, where are you hiding at? I'm not hiding, I'm standing right out here watching them, and they can hear me. I'm turning them in.
Well, something that that I really like about working here in Monte Vista, I've had to go from one side of town to the other, and we can generally do it in about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So we have a pretty good response time. So weapons laws. Counselor.
What did I do?
They went to get
I'm
the
with you.
fingerprint machine.
No, that's something I've given some thought to also, because like Bob's saying, it's different in different places, and what if they're, I mean, it comes down to, it wouldn't happen at my place, because I don't have a gun, but I just make sure that all my neighbors do. So I'm in good shape, but what does somebody do? You catch somebody breaking into your house, and I think that's part of the question, right? I mean, how far can you go defending yourself? Which is kind of a ludicrous question that we would even have to ask, but, you gotta know.
And I understand where you're coming from, and I'll definitely go through and work on the weapons laws presentation, defense laws, and get it more up to date. So that is definitely something that can be addressed, because I know that it was a topic of concern, especially after the red flag laws came out. And we're obviously at a time where we're looking at revisiting concerns such as that. Ken?
First, I want to say the other night, I had a fight in the parking lot at the hotel, and the response of the 3 officers was like, You know, I didn't even have time. I broke the fight up from my window because I heard them. And by the time I got dressed and got down there, the officers were there. So it's like they were there quicker than I could get dressed. So, which was great. But, you know, I still have a concern and probably always will anyways, on our reputation. And of course, the other towns in the valley have that reputation, but our reputation on the amount of drugs that we have. And, you know, you have just strange people saying, you guys have a drug problem in Monte Vista, you know? Yeah.
What?
Drug problem.
Oh. Okay.
And so I'm just, you know, I know Neighborhood Watch is difficult to do something about it, you know, except for like returning the guy with gave my kid a joint, you know, things like that. But is there anything else that can be done that we can improve this whole thing?
Actually, yes, and I have a presentation that I've been working on, a couple of them, that are specific for Neighborhood Watch and how people and members of Neighborhood Watch can help participate in going through and addressing some of these crimes. Now, something I've noticed, because as a lot of you know, I've worked pretty heavily in the drug enforcement area, and I've noticed that there's a lot of lingering that happens in the community. I'll go through and start asking people for, they'll talk about the drug problem and they'll say, okay, well, who's dealing? And they'll give me a name of someone who's either been dead for 3 years or in prison for 12. And it's like, okay, well, doesn't really work like that. They're not here to do it anymore. So getting past that lingering is something that
You mean the reputation?
the reputation, healing the reputation for it. Because just in the 3 years that I've been working here, I've noticed a decrease in activity related to that. I'm not going to say it's gone, but I've noticed a fairly significant decrease in it.
That's good.
I had somebody tell me, it was last week, said in Monty, if you want marijuana, you can probably find marijuana pretty easy. 30 minutes, you can have it bought. You go to Alamosa, they told me, you just go park over by the college, and within 15 to 20 minutes, you'd be amazed at what you can get. So it has gotten better here, just what I've seen in all the years that I've lived here, but there was a window where people were afraid to say anything, and then there came where anything that was going on, people were calling.
I've got two ideas. One, you can hear me. One may be a fundamentals on Neighborhood Watch. What is it all about? How do we participate? How do we get involved? What does it all mean? The second one, take this personal protection thing to another level. You have now a female officer. What about women? If they're not armed, what do they do to protect themselves? Maybe kind of a hands-on, show people. What do you do if you're in a compromised situation?
Trish Mackey's selling tasers now.
Well, tasers are one option, but let's say you get caught without it. You're coming out of the paper late at night and going to your car and some idiot decides to, be an idiot. What do you do?
Becca, do you carry a taser?
I have one, but I always forget to bring it, so.
My daughter has one and it works quite well because I've done it twice.
Yeah, my dad got it on
Myself.
The taser thing brings up a great point. At the last weapon laws presentation I did, we had a taser available, and just going through and sparking it, half of the people within 10 feet jumped. Just displaying that, I mean, I could go through just with this one, okay? A lot of people will go through and jump just by hearing that.
That could be good or bad. That could be bad because there's a reason they react like that to a taser.
Well, yeah, but take it from someone who's actually been hit by a taser. Most people don't want to get hit by it again. And I used to love playing with like 9-volt batteries, sticking it on my tongue, or little electric toys to shock yourself. Getting hit by a taser cured me of that. Very significantly. I just hear one and I...
Is it true you guys have to do that test to each other when you start carrying a taser?
So it's an encouraged custom to go through and receive the thing that you're dishing out. So to my knowledge, every officer has taken a full ride from a taser.
Good thing they don't make you get shot.
I was, even Evan was saying, come on, Mark, say it.
So, but I don't want to put you in a position that would compromise where you're at, but you being a member of the community, I would like to hear your input as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't live in Monte Vista, but I do work here, and I feel like coming to these meetings, I kind of enjoy what you do already. Like, it's interesting to hear what it's like on your side, and I think it's cool that you guys can talk to the citizens and they feel safe, you know, especially nowadays when there's so much distrust. It's nice to have like a forum where they can come and tell you what they're seeing. And one question I do have, I don't know if this would be like a presentation or just a simple answer, but if you do see something, because everyone's always saying, you know, if you see something, say something. What is the best way to do that? Because it's not always like 911, you know, you don't want to do an emergency necessarily.
Not necessarily, but there are numbers for the regional dispatch center. The most common one for around the valley, it's an easy number for most people to remember, is 589-5807. And that'll get the regional dispatch center, and they can still, even though it's an Alamosa number, they can still dispatch for Monte Vista. And they can go through and relay for anywhere in the valley. So just because you might be in a different area so I know Center has their own dispatch, the Rio Grande County area has their own dispatch, Del Norte, they dispatch through Alamosa, we dispatch through Alamosa, obviously Alamosa dispatches through Alamosa, but they're also in constant communication with each other. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you see something that you kind of want checked on, but it's not an emergency, you can call that same number and they will relay it to the appropriate authority.
What's the number?
It's 589-5807.
The Monte Vista number still works too, that 852-5111.
Does it translate into an acronym that you can remember?
Yeah, there you go.
So the Monte Vista specific dispatch number is 852-5111. And the Rio,
That's easy.
okay, so that one's easy. And then the Rio Grande County Sheriff's Office dispatch is 657-4000. So you can call those numbers, and all of the dispatches are pretty good about communicating with each other. Regardless of whichever one you contact, you can get a hold of somebody, usually.
In what kind of case would you call the sheriff's office?
Out in the middle of nowhere, their jurisdiction usually. It's for like, say you live out in the county, somewhere off the 5 North or whatever. You're not gonna call the Monte Vista dispatch, you're gonna call their dispatch.
Would they respond to a call in Delaware, or they would call you guys? Or, Monte Vista. Would they respond to a call in Monte Vista, or would they call you guys?
So we actually have a pretty good working relationship with all of the neighboring jurisdictions, especially ones that can go through and come into the town. So the city of Monte Vista is inside of the county of Rio Grande. So the sheriff's office will come in and help, and we have a good relationship with them on that kind of cooperation. Same with State Patrol. State Patrol, for as long as I've worked here, has been absolutely amazing at responding for calls for help. So say there's one Monte officer is tied up with an arrest from a domestic violence, and we get another call for another domestic violence. it is quite common for State Patrol or Rio Grande to respond almost immediately. So is there anything specific that anyone would like to see out of the police department?
Thank you guys, we're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. The one thing that Chief wanted to pursue, and I think he's doing a pretty good job of it with the whole PD, is getting a little more exposure and involvement in the community and getting the community involved. And I can tell you guys are working on that. So whatever, there's all kinds of little things that can be done. A lot of which has been canceled, like neighborhood night out or whatever that's called. But functions like that are extremely good if we can figure out a way to have them.
Obviously, neighborhood night out, that was canceled this year, but I definitely foresee it resuming next year. I don't think we're going to be in a state where we have to take all of the current precautions that are being taken.
I will say something really positive, because unfortunately, I've encountered several officers in the last month and a half. One was an emergency at the hotel, and the EMTs had to come, and one was the marijuana, and then the other one was the fight in the parking lot. So I'm like a megatropolis of trouble down there. But is that every officer I've encountered have been like normal people. I mean, like, many times officers seem to be overzealous or over whatever in their jobs and their attitudes, and and they're just like, they come, they listen, they react, they take action. It's great.
Something that I find a little bit of a personal source of pride in this department, there is a humility amongst the officers. We are citizens that are just concerned for each other. When we pick up the uniform and put it on, we're just people interacting with people. And, every department has their own style. I'm not knocking any of them. But this is a very small, close-knit community. So we do have the opportunity to be friendlier, just in general, than someplace where, say, an agency that doesn't have the resources to have more than one officer. That officer, for the sake of his safety and even community safety, may have to be very stern. That is, or even in a larger city, these are people, we don't know each other. The majority of the people, like, I know the names of everybody in this room today. And these are we're all part of a very close-knit community. Whereas if I were to be giving this presentation in one of the areas around Denver, I might know 3 faces in the entire crowd of almost 200. That presents its own challenges, where a more stern approach is necessary for the sake of saving lives. So, like I said, I'm not knocking any of those other agencies.
Well, I like it the way we do it.
I'm just saying we're very blessed to be a close-knit community where we can be softer in our approach. All right. Thank you all for coming. And Neighborhood Watch is, like we've been saying, is going to be continuing. We're going to be continuing to have in-person meetings. Counselors, Mayor, I'd love to see you here more often, especially since I'm going to be doing some presentations that y'all specifically requested. So, yeah, I look forward to being able to continue this and going into the next year. Have a good one.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks again, Josh.